The mission begins on Velkaris Prime. The sky over Velkaris Prime was always purple with clouds that shimmered like glass. The wind carried a strange scent, metal and flowers. For humans, it was a place that felt too quiet, too controlled, too... Alien Commander Ryan Blake stood straight at the spaceport, dressed in his black Earth security uniform. His eyes were sharp, his jaw tense. He had protected high-profile figures before, but never someone like her. He read the name again on his, data pad. Lady Selvania Trincal, Royal Diplomat of the Velkaris Empire. He had been sent alone. No backup, no team, just him. To protect the most powerful alien diplomat at the Peace Summit. A soft hum broke the silence. A golden cruiser floated down, sleek and glowing. When it landed, the ship's doors opened with a hiss. 2 alien guards, in silver armor, walked out first. Then she stepped forward. Lady Selvania was tall and elegant. Her skin was pale blue, smooth like polished stone. Her eyes were bright silver, and her long dark hair was tied in a braid wrapped with glowing threads. She walked like she owned the stars. Blake saluted. "Commander Blake, assigned as your personal bodyguard, ma'am." Selvania didn't return the gesture. She simply looked at him, up and down. "A human," she said coldly. "Why?" "I follow orders, not opinions," Blake replied calmly. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Then she turned away. "Keep up, Commander. My life depends on you, so don't slow me down." They entered a sleek hover car and traveled to the diplomatic tower in silence. Blake sat alert beside her, scanning every corner of the city. Flying, crafts buzzed overhead. Alien children played in glowing parks. But Blake didn't relax. He never did. When they arrived, Selvania stepped out and was greeted by more royal guards. They bowed. She nodded but kept walking. Blake noticed something odd. One of the guards didn't bow. He stood still, watching Selvania carefully. His hand rested too close to his belt, where a hidden blade might be. Blake stepped closer to Selvania. "Stay behind me." She frowned. "Excuse me?" "I don't like the look of that one," he whispered. Before she could reply, a loud click echoed. Then boom! An explosion rocked the street. Fire and debris flew in every direction. Glass shattered from above. People screamed. Blake didn't think. He grabbed Selvania and pulled her down behind a steel column. A second blast hit closer. Shards tore into his shoulder, and blood began dripping fast. But he didn't let go. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Her breathing hard, she looked stunned. You shielded me. I'm your bodyguard, that's the job." She reached out slowly and touched the blood soaking his arm. "I've never seen someone bleed for me," she whispered. He gave a weak smile. "Get used to it." A few minutes later, backup arrived. The street was cleared. The attacker had disappeared in the chaos. The guards blamed terrorists, but Blake wasn't so sure. In the tower's secure chamber, a medic treated his wounds while Selvania stood by the window, watching the city burn quietly below. "Commander," she said without turning, "why did you not dodge the blast?" "Because it was aimed at you." She turned to face him. "You could have died." "But you didn't," he said. She stepped closer, her tone softer now. "Most humans stay far away from our kind. They think we are cold, dangerous." Blake shrugged. "Not all humans, and not all aliens." There was a long pause. Then she said something surprising. "You're not what I expected, Commander Blake." He chuckled slightly, wincing from the pain. "You either, ma'am." She nodded slowly and looked away. Outside, a silent storm began to fall, glowing rain that shimmered as it hit the windows. But inside the room, something unspoken had begun. A shift, a connection. Neither of them understood it yet. Ending hook. As Blake turned to rest, Selvania looked at the blood-stained floor and whispered to herself, "No one has ever bled for me before, not even my own." Selvania sat alone in her private chamber, the glowing rain tapping against the tall crystal windows of the diplomatic tower. The lights inside were dim, yet her silver eyes still shone like glass. She had been in danger, before, but never like this. Never with a human throwing himself into the fire for her. She kept seeing his face, bloody, but calm, his hands steady as he pulled her behind cover. The memory was stuck in her mind like a song that wouldn't stop. Why would a human do that? She whispered to herself. The door beeped gently, then opened. Commander Blake stepped in, arm wrapped but standing strong. His uniform still had dried blood across the shoulder. He looked like someone who didn't care about pain, only purpose. You should be resting, she said flatly. I heal fast, he replied, stepping closer. And I don't like lying in bed when you're still a target, she frowned. You still think I'm in danger? He nodded. That blast wasn't random. Someone knew our route, someone close. Sylvania's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. I have enemies, even among my people. But I didn't expect them to act so soon. Blake walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Did you notice the guard who didn't bow? She blinked. You mean Vurak? He's been in service since I was a child. Blake turned his head slightly. Even old knives can cut. That night she canceled all public meetings. Instead, she walked through the tower halls alone, thinking. Her thoughts weren't about politics. They were about him. Why did this human make her heart feel warm? Her people were not raised to trust emotion. Diplomats, especially, were taught to control everything. Tone, face, feeling. But now, her mask was slipping. When she reached the observation deck, she found Blake already there. He stood at the edge, watching the glowing ships rise into the sky like fireflies. You move like a shadow, she said quietly. He smiled without looking. That's the job. Why are you really here? She asked suddenly. You could be protecting presidents, generals, not me. He finally turned. Because someone chose me, and I don't abandon my assignment, even if that assignment is cold and sharp-tongued. Sylvania raised one eyebrow. Are you mocking me, Commander? A little, he said. You needed it. For the first time, she laughed. Just a little. But it was real. Later, as she prepared for bed, her communicator buzzed. An encrypted message appeared on the screen. Assassin will strike again. Next time, it will look like your failure. She stared at the words. Her hands went cold. A setup. They were planning to blame her for the death of the human. Her mind raced. If anything happened to Blake, they'd say she was careless, or worse, complicit. The council would destroy her. Sylvania rushed to Blake's room. He was already awake, sharpening a small blade at the table. You don't sleep, do you? She asked, entering quickly. Sleep is dangerous when someone wants you dead. She showed him the message. His face grew serious. Looks like they're targeting me to get to you, he muttered. Or targeting me by killing you, she replied softly. There was silence. Then she took a bold step. I want to change the plan, she said. We'll move tonight, just us two. Blake looked surprised. Without the guards? That's against protocol. I know, she said, but I don't trust them anymore. I only trust you. Blake stared at her, his voice lowered. That could get you exiled. She stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. I'd rather be exiled than watch you die because I followed rules written by cowards. Ending hook. As they moved through the dark, empty corridors of the tower, avoiding cameras and guards, Sylvania whispered behind him, You bled for me. Now let me break the rules for you. Velkaris Prime had no night, just a long, soft twilight that painted everything in purple and gold. The royal gardens were empty now. The guards had been dismissed by Lady Sylvania herself, cameras turned off, paths blocked by her command. Only two figures walked in secret. Commander Ryan Blake followed close behind Sylvania, every sense sharp. His hand rested near the small weapon hidden in his coat. She walked quietly in front of him, her long braid swaying, her blue skin glowing softly in the garden lights. "You shouldn't have come out like this," Blake whispered. She paused. "I told you I don't trust them anymore. They're your own people." She turned her head slightly. "That's exactly why I don't trust them." They walked past giant glass flowers and tall silver trees until they reached a hidden archway. Beyond it was a sealed garden, long abandoned. Only royal family members had access. Vines curled around statues of past rulers. A small waterfall trickled into a glowing pond. Selvania touched the wall behind a crumbling statue. A hidden panel slid open. Inside was a small device, dusty and ancient. "My brother and I used this place when we were young," she said, softly. "No one knows it still works." Blake raised a brow. "A secret room under a royal garden. That's convenient." She smiled a little. "You humans say, never trust easy things." "I agree." Inside the chamber was a table and a hologram projector. Selvania placed the data crystal she had taken from her room earlier. The air flickered. A small glowing screen appeared, showing encrypted communications between palace guards. Blake leaned closer. "That symbol, I've seen it before." Selvania nodded. "It belongs to House Varnak, my cousin's house." Blake's eyes narrowed. "Your cousin wants you dead?" "He wants my seat in the council," she replied. "And he thinks I'm too weak, too emotional after working with humans." He chuckled. "If he saw you ordering everyone around, he'd change his mind." She gave him a small glance. "You think I'm too bossy?" "I think you're too brave," he said simply. There was a silence between them, the kind that wasn't uncomfortable, but heavy, like both had words to say, but neither dared yet. Suddenly a noise echoed outside the hidden garden, metal scraping. Blake stood quickly and pulled his sidearm. Selvania moved beside him. "There's only one way into this chamber. They'd have to know the exact statue." A red light flickered, above the wall panel. Someone was trying to enter. Blake whispered, "We're not alone." He pulled her down behind the table, weapon raised. The door creaked, but instead of opening, the red light turned green. Whoever tried, failed. They waited, in silence for long minutes. Then Selvania stood. "They're testing the locks," she said. "Next time they'll be ready." Blake stared at her. "Then we beat them first." She looked at him carefully. "Would you break your rules for this?" "I already did," he replied. Hours later, back in the tower, Selvania did something she hadn't done in years. She sat beside someone during a meal. No guards, no advisors, just Blake, still bleeding slightly under the bandage, refusing to rest. "You should eat more," she told him. He raised his brow. "You sound like my sister," she smiled. "Did she boss you around too?" "She still does. She's a doctor back on Mars." Selvania leaned forward. "You have family, do you?" he asked. Her smile faded. "Not anymore. My brother was assassinated. My mother is a statue now. My father lives in the shadows of shame." Blake looked down. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "Don't be, it taught me something." "What's that?" "That duty doesn't love you back, but sometimes a stranger does." His eyes met hers. She looked away quickly, but he didn't. Later that night, she returned to her room and found a single folded cloth on her bed. Inside it, a small metal brooch. It was the Earthguard insignia. A note rested beside it. "You protected me in your own way tonight. Now I carry your symbol too. Ryan Blake." She touched the pin gently and smiled. Ending hook. As she pinned the brooch beside her royal crest, a shadow watched from the garden window, recording everything. And miles away, her cousin whispered, "She's protecting the fee. Human. Good. Let them fall together." The halls of the diplomatic tower were quiet, but it was the kind of silence that hides sharp things. Commander Ryan Blake felt it in his bones. The way guards looked at him now was different. Polite, yes, but distant, cold. Their nods lasted too long. Their words were too smooth. He had been in dangerous places before. He knew when something was coming, and something was coming. Lady Selvagna stood before the council that morning. She wore her official royal uniform, layers of soft glowing cloth and silver armor on her shoulders. But Blake could tell her heart wasn't in the speech. He watched from a balcony as she argued with the other nobles. The peace treaty must continue. Violence will only bring ruin, she said. One of the councilmen, Lord Varnack, smiled thinly. And you believe a human bodyguard will keep you safe through all this chaos? Blake leaned forward. So that was her cousin. Selvagna narrowed her eyes. Commander Blake has saved my life twice. I trust him more than any of your hired swords. Murmurs echoed through the chamber. Varnack gave a short laugh. You place your faith in a bleeding stranger. Selvagna's voice turned sharp. That stranger bled for me. Have any of you done the same? There was silence, but Blake knew it wasn't over. That smile on Varnack's face. It wasn't a defeat. It was a warning. Back in her quarters, Selvagna paced. They're watching us, every step, every word. If I stand too close to you, they notice. If I speak too warmly, they whisper. Blake leaned against the wall. Then we stop hiding. She paused. What do you mean? We take the fight to them. She tilted her head. How? He opened a small metal case and revealed a tracking bug. We fake an assassination attempt. Make it public. Let them panic. Whoever tries to finish the job will reveal themselves. Selvagna looked at the bug, then at him. You trust me to play dead? She asked. He smirked. I trust you to sell it better than me. That night, the trap was set. Selvagna announced a surprise speech at the Unity balcony, an open platform above. The tower, no guards, no security field, just her standing alone in the wind. The city below sparkled in the dark. People gathered far below to watch the unexpected address. Blake stayed hidden nearby, wearing plain clothes, monitoring all signals. His ear buzzed. 2 heat sources approaching from the east duct, he whispered. Movement pattern matches. Assassin profiles. Selvagna stood calm, her voice echoing through the floating drones. My people, and those of Earth. I speak not just with words, but with blood. Suddenly, crack. A shot rang out. Selvagna stumbled backward, clutching her side. The crowd screamed, but she wasn't really hit. A small blood pack under her robe burst. She fell slowly, like in a dream, into Blake's arms as he rushed forward. Guards poured in, and that's when it happened. Before Blake could explain the setup, a blinding light hit his face. Drones turned toward him, and someone shouted, Did it! The human shot her! Blake's mind froze. For a moment, everyone stood still. Then weapons were drawn. Selvagna opened one eye, confused. She whispered, No, this isn't the plan. But it was too late. 3 guards tackled Blake. His face smashed into the balcony floor. He didn't resist, yet. He looked toward Selvagna and saw her cousin, Lord Varnack, holding her upright, acting like the hero. She's bleeding. Call the medics, he shouted. As Selvagna struggled to speak, Blake was already being dragged away. They threw him into a cold holding cell deep below the tower. No windows. No time. His hands were tied. Blood from the tackle dripped down his jaw. The door slammed shut. Lights flickered. He sat in silence. But he didn't panic. He had expected betrayal. He just hadn't expected it to come so soon, or so publicly. Back in the upper levels, Selvagna sat in her chamber, her robe torn at the side, the fake blood drying on her hands. Her cousin stood at the door. You're lucky I was there, he said gently. She looked up, tired. You used my plan. Your plan was dangerous. The human couldn't be trusted. Selvagna stood. You framed him. He smiled. Yes. Her voice grew hard. That's treason. He stepped closer. And if you say that out loud, I will claim the human manipulated you, emotionally compromised. A threat to Velkaris. She clenched her fists. He leaned close and whispered, forget the human, or join him in exile. Ending hook. In the cell below, Blake pulled something from his boot, a tiny hidden chip. He placed it into the wall scanner and whispered, let's see what your cameras really recorded. Cousin? The holding cell was small and cold, just stone walls, one blinking light, and silence. But Commander Rian Blake wasn't sitting still. His fingers worked fast, connecting the chip he had hidden in his boot into the back panel of the wall security feed. A small screen lit up, showing old camera files. Come on, he muttered. Show me the truth. A moment later, there it was. Footage from the balcony. Clear, uncut. Blake watched as a laser beam fired from the east tower, not from him. A guard planted the blood pack on Selvania's robe before the speech. Another guard adjusted the drone's focus to frame him just before the shot. All of it was planned. He copied the footage to his implant and shut the device down, his jaw clenched. I let you bleed me once, he whispered, thinking of Selvania. Now it's your turn to fight back. Meanwhile, in her chambers, Selvania sat frozen in front of her mirror. The council had already spoken. Blake will be exiled in 3 days. Trial denied. Case closed. They called it mercy. She called it betrayal. Her cousin, Lord Varnak, had taken over her security detail. Every guard now answered to him. Her wings were clipped. She wasn't just watched. She was cornered. She held Blake's Earthguard insignia tightly in her hand. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't think, until a whisper came through her hidden comlink. Still alive. Got proof, but I need a way out. RB, her eyes widened. He wasn't broken, and he wasn't done. Late that night, Varnak hosted a grand feast. Diplomats, nobles, and elite officers filled the shining halls. Everyone smiled, drank, and pretended. The scandal was over. Selvania wore her finest dress, a glowing silver cloak wrapped around her like starlight. Her hair was pinned up like a crown. She walked with the grace of an empress. But her heart burned. She approached the podium. Before we end this evening, I wish to speak of loyalty. The crowd turned quiet. She continued, I once believed protocol was sacred. That emotion was weakness, that humans were beneath us. Her voice grew sharper. But then, one of them took a blade for me, bled for me, stood for me when no one else would. Gasps echoed. Lord Varnak stood quickly. Careful, cousin. You tread dangerous ground. She ignored him. And now, that same man is buried beneath us in chains because of a lie. Everyone froze. Before anyone could stop her, Selvania reached into her sleeve and activated a small projector crystal. The truth played in front of the entire hall. The real shooter, the drone manipulation, the planted evidence. Every guest stared in silence as the plan unfolded before their eyes. And at the center of it all, Lord Varnak. Seize him, she shouted. But Varnak was faster. He threw a small device to the ground. Flash. Bomb light exploded across the room. Screams followed. Guards ran in confusion. In the chaos, Selvania ran. Not to escape. To the cell. Deep beneath the tower, Blake sat waiting. He heard boots running, many of them. Then the alarm blared. He stood. The door burst open. It wasn't guards. It was her. Selvania, breathless, eyes wide. You're bleeding again. Blake chuckled. Small cut, you should see the other guy. She pulled him up, handed him his sidearm. We don't have long. Suddenly, clang, a shot fired. A blade hit the wall behind them. Varnak stood at the corridor entrance. His eyes were wild now. No more smiling mask. You ruined everything, he spat. Selvania stood between him and Blake. You ruined yourself. Varnak raised his gun. Then you die with him. He fired, but she didn't fall. Blake stepped in front of her. Again. This time the shot hit his side, deeper than before. He stumbled, blood pouring, but stayed upright. Then he raised his own weapon and fired once. Varnak dropped. Stunned and groaning, Blake fell to one knee. Selvania caught him before he collapsed. You fool, she whispered, tears in her voice. You did it again. He looked up, eyes half closed. You're worth bleeding for. Ending hook. As the tower alarms faded, Selvania cradled him in her arms and whispered to the guards rushing in. Get medical now. If he dies, this empire loses its only honest soul. The medical wing was silent, except for the slow, rhythmic beeping of life support. Commander Rian Blake lay still, pale and motionless. Tubes ran across his chest. His uniform was cut open, soaked in blood. The wound had gone deep, just missing his heart, but he was alive, just barely. Selvania had not left his side for hours. She sat beside him now, her royal robes stained with ash and tears. Her fingers held his hand, not for show, not for duty, but because she was afraid he would slip away if she let go. Stay with me, she whispered. You don't get to leave, not like this. Outside the wing, chaos ruled. The broadcast of Varnak's betrayal had shocked the galaxy. Allies and rivals were all watching. The Velkhari's High Council had been forced to meet in emergency session, but not everyone was pleased. Selvania stood before the council chamber again, this time not as a diplomat, but as a warrior. Her voice was cold. Lord Varnak is under guard. His crimes are known, but justice must also come for the lies you allowed. One elder rose. You accuse us now? She stepped forward. You knew he hated peace. You knew he hated me. And yet you gave him my guards, my voice, my protection. Another counselor hissed. We will not be lectured by a woman who broke protocol for a human. Selvania's eyes burned. That human took a bullet meant for me, twice. The rules are clear, someone shouted. No alien may share sacred trust with an off-worlder. No royal may then change the rules, she snapped. The chamber fell silent. Later, in her private chamber, Selvania stood before her reflection. She removed her medals, took off her crown. She looked lighter. Like someone shedding the last pieces of a cage, she turned to her aide. Prepare a formal address broadcasted across Velkharis. The aide blinked. A formal address? Yes, she said. I'm telling the people everything. That evening, the galaxy stopped to watch. Selvania stood before the glowing screen, her face calm but fierce. I was raised to believe loyalty was obedience, she said. That duty to empire came before all. That emotions were weakness. But a man came from Earth, a stranger, a soldier. He had no reason to care for me, yet he did. He gave his strength, his blood, and nearly his life. Her voice shook slightly, but she didn't stop. Not because of orders, but because it was right. I broke protocol, she admitted. I bent rules. I even lied to save him. I would do it again. Because if your rules punish honor, if your laws shame compassion, then they are broken. I stand with the man who bled for peace. And if that costs me my place on the council, so be it. Back in the medical wing, Blake stirred, his eyes fluttered open. Everything was blurry, but he saw her, standing at the window, her back to him. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. She turned and rushed to him, eyes wide. You're awake. He gave her a tired smile. Thought you'd quit by now. She laughed, wiping her eyes. I almost did. But then I remembered you're the only bodyguard foolish enough to step in front of a plasma bolt twice. He tried to sit up but winced. Easy, she said, pushing him gently back. You're safe. Blake looked around. What happened to your cousin? Awaiting trial, under armed guard. And you? He asked. She hesitated. I may be removed from the council, maybe worse. Blake frowned. You didn't have to risk all this for me. She leaned in close. Yes, I did. Because no one ever fought for me before. But you did. Hours later, a council aide entered the room, out of breath. Lady Selvania, he said, bowing quickly. The people, they're chanting your name. Everywhere, even on the outer colonies, she stood. They watched the speech? They did. And they believe in you. And the council? She asked. The aide hesitated. They want to meet. Urgently. She looked at Blake. He nodded. Go, he said. Finish what we started. Ending. Hook. As she walked through the great silver halls, Selvania's voice echoed in her mind. I broke protocol, but I found something more powerful than rules. I found someone worth defying an empire for. The council hall was filled to the edges. Velkaris leaders, military commanders, nobles, watchers from allied planets, and even a few humans sat behind glowing barriers. Outside, billions watched the broadcast waiting. Everyone had the same question. Would Selvania bow or rise? She walked in without crown or title robes, just simple white cloth with the insignia of peace pinned beside her heart, Blake's Earthguard badge. The hall buzzed with whispers. She's not wearing the crest. She stands without her family seal. She's finished. But she didn't walk like someone defeated. She walked like someone free. The lead counselor stood. Lady Selvania Trincal, you stand before us accused of abandoning protocol. Breaking oath and compromising the safety of the Empire for a human male, she stopped at the center. I stand before you because I refuse to let a good man die. Gasps echoed. She continued. You gave me protocol. He gave me his blood. You gave me silence. He gave me truth. You call that a crime? Emotion weakens. Reason, another counselor said coldly. No, Selvania replied. It strengthens it, and I have proof. She activated a small device. Holograms floated above the council, images of people from across the galaxy, alien and human alike. Farmers, pilots, students, doctors, all speaking into cameras. We stand with Selvania. She fought for peace. That human saved her. She saved us. The images faded. Then she added softly, I did not fall in love with a species. I trusted a soul. The room fell into stunned silence. And then, clapping. It started small. A single noble, then another, and another. Within seconds, nearly half the hall was applauding. The elders stared, unmoving, until the eldest counselor, her face covered in golden veil, stood. She raised one hand. The clapping stopped. Her voice echoed. With authority, Lady Selvania, your words are dangerous. A beat of silence. Then, but they are true. Back in the medical wing, Ryan Blake stood alone, watching it all on the screen. His arm was still in a sling, and his breathing was tight, but he was alive, and watching. History change in front of him. The door opened. Selvania stood there. No guards, no crown, just her. You did it, Blake said. No, she smiled. We did. She stepped closer, slowly. The council dropped all charges. They even offered me a higher seat. But I said no. He blinked. Why? Because I'm tired of thrones. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out something small, a simple band, made from woven earth metal and Velkaris crystal. Where I'm going, I want someone brave beside me. Blake stared at the ring. Are you asking me to be your bodyguard again? She grinned. No, Ryan Blake, I'm asking you to be my equal. Outside, the skies over Velkaris glowed brighter than ever before. Peace talks restarted, with humans seated beside Velkarans for the first time. The laws began to change, and across the stars, one story echoed louder than any treaty, the alien, who chose a human not for power, but for love. Final hook for YouTube ending slide. She was expected to serve her empire, but she chose the man who bled for her instead, and the galaxy would never be the same again.